I've had a few people ask me so far about how I scripted my new experience level renderings on developphp.com member profiles. So I'm going to lay it down on video since the simple script example needs to be coupled with some discussion and a quick demonstration. And in the example I'm going to use, it's the forum posts amounts that determine the user's level. So how many posts they have in the forums database. But you can use any number you want. And this base logic is very handy for something like RPG game programming. And you can also transfer the logic into other programming languages or other scripting languages that you're more comfortable with. If you don't want to use PHP, maybe you want to use JavaScript or ActionScript to lay down the logic to tally up somebody's experience level. So what I'll show you how to do is script it in a static sort of way at first, just so you can see how the script operates, and then we'll turn it into a dynamic script that actually gets information from your database. I'll show you how to query the database to get some kind of count for a user. So that way you have a number to turn into an experience level. The first thing we'll start with is 3 variables. The first one's called username, and that's equal to a value of Jeremy. And that's just a static value because, like I said, we're going to be just using static values so you can see how the script logic runs before we connect to a database. Now the second variable is count. This can be any value that you want to pick to experiment with. But in reality, you would get this value, this variable would represent a value that came from the database for a certain user. Right here it's just statically hard-coded in. And the third variable is level, which by default each member will have a level of 1 until we evaluate the count and see what level we should place them on. But by default we set level as 1. Now we're going to take this count and evaluate this value in order to change this level from 1 to whatever it needs to be. And if their count is very low, it will remain at 1. So let's place an if condition here that says if count is greater than or equal to 50, then we're going to change the level variable to equal to. So that way you know that user is on level 2. If the count is greater than or equal to 50, so we know Jeremy is definitely above level 1 because he has a count of 127. So he would fall into level 2 at this point. But we have to put a few more if-else condition statements here to make this all make sense, so you can evaluate for higher levels. Now watch how easy this is. I'm just going to copy this line, and I'm going to go down one line, type in else, paste in the line that I copied right here. So I'm going to change the one on top to say 3, and this to say 100. So for my user to get to level 2, they have to have at least 50 in their count. In my case, I'm counting forum posts from the database. So if the count is greater than or equal to 100, the level is equal to 3. Now you just copy that top line, Control C, put it right above that other line. In the previous line, you just put an else, and you just keep going like that, pretty much doubling each time you go. Change this to a 4. So this is how you make it to where it's harder for them to get to the next level once they reach a new level, by doubling the count value that it has to become that level. Alright, so if the count is greater than or equal to 200, this user is at level 4. So you can see Jeremy's not at level 4 yet. He would fall under level 3. So if I run this script right now, I'm going to get a level value of 3 for Jeremy. But don't stop there. You keep it going. And each time it raises, it's going to double. So you really won't have to have too many of these in the end. Let's put that line there. Just like before, we'll put an else here. And then change this one to double the one before it. And that becomes level 5. I'm going to copy that line. I'm going to do it again. Put it right under it. Else. This becomes 800 now. This becomes level 6. Now I'm going to do that a few more times. You saw the rhythm of what I was doing. Okay, so now you see what you have? You have all the way from level 1 to 10 set up already. And if none of these conditions are met, then it's going to remain level 1. So let's say Jeremy had a count of 0. He would definitely be level 1 because none of these conditions would be met in order to change this level variable. So just for testing purposes, we can now echo this to the page. Username is level, whatever level number it is, with this many experience points. So let's give Jeremy give him 287 experience points, and we'll run this script and see what output we get. Okay, so this is the output that I get from my echo statement. Jeremy is level 4 with 287 experience points. And in the script you can see that he would definitely fall under level 4 because his count is greater than or equal to 200. And we know he's not up to level 5 yet because he hasn't met this condition for passing 400 yet. Now very quickly I'll show you how to render the stars. Alright, let's go here on the bottom under where we echoed out there, and I'm going to put in a little bit of code, just these few lines here I just placed in, and let me explain them real quick. You can see I put a comment in that says render stars or any graphics images according to dynamic level number. So the first thing we do is we set two variables. One is stars, and that's just initializing the stars variable, and the second one is creating the iterator variable. We set that at a default of 1. Now the while loop is set up to evaluate while this number is less than or equal to this number, then the while loop executes. It runs. So if this starts at 1 at first, the first pass in the loop it's going to be while 1 is greater than or equal to, and in Jeremy's case he's going to be level 4. So that means while 1 is less than or equal to 4, this loop is going to process. So that means this loop is going to process 4 times. You say I++, and that makes I add 1 to itself. So each time this loop runs, I is not going to be equal to 1. It's only going to be equal to 1 the first time this loop runs. The second time it runs, it's going to be equal to 2. And once this reaches 4, then this while loop is just going to stop processing. So basically you're just pumping out stars while this while loop is processing. And we know for Jeremy's count that he's going to get 4 stars, because this while loop is going to run 4 times. So now let's take this echo, Control X, and we'll put it down here at the bottom. And don't worry, I'm going to have this script available at the page at Develop PHP where this video is playing underneath the video. So now we can just add the stars variable right here to the front. Just put stars and a break tag, or whatever way you want to design it, whatever you want to put in. And it's important to keep in mind that these stars can be like the HTML character like I'm using here, or Develop PHP I'm using custom images. So you can just put an image tag in here, image source, whatever image on your server that you want to use, and it will render however many times it needs to render to match with their experience level. So now let's run this and see what we get. Let's refresh the script, and you can see there's 4 stars. Jeremy is level 4 with 287 experience points. So really, when you take a good look at this script, these if and else if condition statements are the ones that are really supplying all the logic. And if you're working in JavaScript or ActionScript 3, you would do the same kind of logic. And actually, if and else if works the exact same way in ActionScript and JavaScript, and these operators also apply in ActionScript and JavaScript the exact same way as they do in PHP. So this code could be pretty much copy and pasted straight into ActionScript or JavaScript, except for you'll have to claim your variables differently in JavaScript and ActionScript. Okay, you can see mine tops at 12,800 for the count, and that's level 10. So if they get way above this, they're always just going to be at level 10, which is my maximum level at the site. But if you wanted to get up to 1,000,000, it wouldn't take you very long. All you'd have to do is stick in a few more lines, because these keep doubling each time. So if it's growing exponentially like that, I bet you within 3 or 4 or 5 more lines, or 3 or 4 or 5 more evaluations, you'll be up to 1,000,000. And whatever you want to set your level numbers for, whatever. Now there's also one more thing we have to discuss. This count would not be really a static variable in there that you would just type in a number. It would be a dynamic variable for each member of your site or each user of your game or whatever. So you got to get that value out of the database for that user. I'm going to show you a little bit of code that you can apply to get that count dynamically out of your database. And here you go. There's the 3 lines that you'll need. So I gave you a little comment that says connect to your database like you normally do, and then target a member ID to get a count for. So this member ID variable, you have to have that available somehow in your script. Here, I'll put up on top another code comment that says connect to database and be sure you have a dynamic member ID ready in script. If you're somebody who wants to create an experience level rendering for your members, you definitely already know how to get the member ID or access to the member ID. You put that in a variable called memID, and you simply query your database. Select count all from posts, where member ID equals this member's ID, or die with a MySQL error. So posts is the table that you want to evaluate to see how many things this member has put into that table. Now that's only for if you have a forum situation and you want to list members and how many times they posted and make an experience level out of that. That's all I did at Develop PHP. But really you can use any number for this count. It doesn't have to be forum based or whatever. This could just be a number that you tally up each time somebody does something. You maybe will change a number in a database. It could be that number, whatever. So what I do is I put the MySQL fetch row function at play on that query, and I make that a local PHP variable called row. So you can access that array's first index, or the first key in that array, by just putting 0 there between the brackets on that variable. And you put that into a new variable called count, and that's how you get the count out for anything you want to query from your database. So you select count all from whatever table you want, where member ID equals this member ID. Okay? Or maybe you're selecting a field that you're tallying a number in that you just keep compounding to. So you would just say select number field, or whatever field, whatever you named your field. Like you can call this XP field or whatever. Select XP field from post. So maybe you just have a number in one field that you want to pull out, and you don't really want to count how many posts or things they have applied to your website. That's how you can change that up. So I'm going to comment out these lines and make sure people know that this is only to be applied if you want to gather that count number from a database query. But for now I'm just going to leave it static so people can just run the script. They can just copy and paste this whole script, run it on their server, and it'll show how the logic runs. Okay, so that's pretty much all I did. And I explained how to change this HTML star character into an image. You just basically put an HTML image tag in there. Put the source to whatever kind of image that you want to use. And that's everything you need to know. So that will help you give your site members an experience level according to some dynamic number, and it makes it harder and harder to get to each new experience level from the last one because everything doubles. And remember, like I said, all you need is really just a few more lines in here, a few more else ifs, and you'll be up to 1,000,000 or whatever, because these are all compounding very quickly because this number is doubling each time. Alright, so I hope that wasn't too confusing, and I hope this helps anyone who wants to display experience numbers or experience levels for their users. Or maybe you're creating a game and you want to render out an experience level from some number in your database. This can be used for that.